Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast as we share the truth concerning these last days and what you must do to save yourself from the violent times that are just ahead. Today's podcast is a word of truth accounting of the end times. The end is coming. The end is near. Today's podcast is entitled End Times 205, The Revelation of the Seven Seasons, Part 5. The podcast objectives are reveal why the world will not recover after season 4, analyze the purpose of the day of Yahuwah, analyze why many will not survive the day of Yahuwah, and reveal how clear the Father is concerning his day. This lesson contains timelines and other visuals. Therefore, if you are listening to the podcast, I advise you to watch the video version on our website or YouTube, or request a PDF of the lesson so you can add the visual effect. The world will not recover. Now, in the most recent podcast, we established the purpose of the destruction of Mystery Babel, i.e., the fourth of the seven seasons in these last days. The purpose? To destroy the anti-Mashiach system that is Babel once and for all in the earth. At the height of the sifting of the nations, as the world is reeling from the first wave of judgment in these last days, Elohim will wipe off one of the most powerful nations from the face of the earth, a decisive destruction that will make the world outlook even more grim. Think about it. The world at the end of season 4 will have experienced two cataclysmic events. Firstly, every nation will have experienced severe judgments which will have decimated their populations, economies, and resources. Secondly, the most powerful nation in the earth will be destroyed beyond recovery. This sequence of destruction speaks directly to the mind and the intent of Elohim. It is also confirmation that everything he does has a purpose. Consider this. By destroying Mystery Babel, after the sifting of the nations, Elohim is ensuring the world as we know it will not recover. By destroying the most powerful nation in the earth, i.e., the nation with most resources and the potential to facilitate the recovery of many allies, the Father is ensuring that the world continues on the downward spiral it is on. Case in point, this downward spiral, my friends, will take an even more drastic turn after the destruction of Mystery Babel. Remember, there is one more season left in the time of the great distress. Enter the infamous day of Yahuwah. If those days were not shortened. As you can see by the timeline below, the day of Yahuwah is the 5th season in these last days. It is the final season in the time of the great distress. By the end of it, approximately 6 billion people in the world will have perished. This speaks to the sheer terror of Elohim and the absolute horror of the day of Yahuwah. Here again, we will go into the details in future podcasts, but here is what you need to know at this point. More people will die during the day of Yahuwah than any other season in these last days. This reality speaks to the purpose of the day of Yahuwah. That is, to execute the greatest depopulation of the earth by removing the last batch of men who A, are not qualified for the millennial kingdom, and B, have not been designated to perish in one of the final two seasons. This speaks to the horrific nature of these days, specifically the speed at which mankind will die and the failing conditions of the world, which will prevent many of these bodies from being buried. They will be as dung on the ground. This is why we have been told that those days will be shortened, or none would be saved. Matthew 24:22 is revealing, and if those days were not shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the sake of the chosen ones, those days shall be shortened. Think about that for a moment. I am sure many of you have heard this scripture before, but maybe you didn't realize it would happen in your lifetime. Maybe you didn't realize that our loving master is referring to these last days. Now that you know, consider how the global mortality rate will be so high and the physical conditions of our world will be so poor, the entire human race would die off if the Father does not intervene. This, my friends, is the backdrop of the day of Yahuwah. Likewise, it is a testimony to the fact that in those days, what can go wrong will go wrong. And should you survive to see the day of Yahuwah without the seal of Elohim, consider this: no matter how bad you think things are, they will only get worse. Heeding the signs of the times. Now, there are many scriptures which speak directly to the day of Yahuwah. In fact, it is the most referenced season associated with the Great Distress. For the day of Yahuwah represents the climax of this violent period. For that reason, I feel it is appropriate to once again highlight the vast significance of the seal of Elohim. Not only this, but I will submit the following interest point, which you must believe and you must receive if you wish to avoid the calamity of those days. You cannot obtain the seal of Elohim if you have sin in your life, i.e., if you are continuing in any manner of sin. The continuance of any sin in your life being a testament that you have not overcome that sin. This is where the rubber meets the road, as they say. Truly, the Father is not going to depopulate the earth by 6 billion men, women, and children without a cause. He is focused on making an end of sin in order to fulfill his vision of global righteousness and peace on earth. Here lies the inflection, vis-a-vis, by continuing in sin, and in some cases pursuing sin, the inhabitants of this world are disqualifying themselves from participating in the millennial kingdom. By their transgressions and their continued acts of unrighteousness, they are telling the Father they would rather be destroyed than follow his will. And this is why they will be destroyed. Their deaths are the results of the choices they have made. As for Elohim, he is not only long-suffering, patient, and kind, he is also very clear. He has gone on the record many times, warning us of what is to come by his word, his ministers, and other resources. The problem is that many are not heeding his warnings. They are not heeding the signs of the times. For those who are not sleeping, but have eyes to see and ears to hear, allow me to share with you a focal passage concerning the day of Yahuwah. And I call upon you to hear just how clear the Father is concerning this evil day. Isaiah 13, 6 through 13 reads, "How, for the day of Yahuwah is near. It comes as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore, all hands go limp, every man's heart melts. And they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows take hold of them. They are in pain as a woman in labor. They are amazed at one another, their faces aflame. See, the day of Yahuwah is coming, fierce with wrath and heat of displeasure, to lay the earth waste and destroy its sinners from it. And I shall punish the world for its evil and the wrong for their crookedness, and shall put an end to the arrogance of the proud and lay low the pride of the ruthless. I shall make mortal man scarcer than fine gold, and mankind scarcer than the gold of Ophir. So I shall make the heavens tremble, and the earth shall shake from her place. In the wrath of Yahuwah of hosts, and in the day of the heat of his displeasure." Now, here is the final word. The fifth step in surviving these last days is being guarded during the day of Yahuwah. Now, as you can very likely tell, this will not be a simple enterprise, namely, once the day of Yahuwah has come. And yet, if we address this pending calamity in this present day, we will find this enterprise to be as simple as any other. All we have to do is qualify ourselves for the millennial kingdom. All we have to do is give the Father a purpose for our election, beginning with our victory over sin. And should we succeed, this day will not come upon any of us unawares. Neither should we fear. And while 6 billion men, women, and children will perish all around us, we will still be here. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, End Times 205, the revelation of the 7 seasons, part 5. And the next podcast is entitled End Times 206, the revelation of the 7 seasons, part 6. I will post this podcast on Monday, August 7th, 2023. Until then, my friends, continue to be led by the Spirit of Elohim. Continue to watch, continue to pray, continue in fasting, and most of all, continue to be focused, for the end is coming. The end is near.